All right, welcome back to this video lab in which we're setting up the Centrify report services, a new feature of Centrify Suite 2016. In this video, we are actually doing the setup in a different way. We're using SQL Server Standard or Enterprise. And the reason why we're doing that as a recap is when you use SQL Server Express reporting services, you're stuck with only the SharePoint site that it has to retrieve the reports, or you can use your own reports tool to retrieve and distribute the reports, right? So alternatively, you may want to be able to put those reports in a file share or in an email environment uh, for IT people, security, or auditors to consume. So we're picking it up in the configuration wizard right here. And again, there's those two deployment models, right? So as we pick it up here, we're going to do next. So notice that instead of picking a SQL Server Express, I'm picking an existing SQL Server instance. And notice that, continues to be an exercise in teamwork because you may have a SQL Server, SME in your environment. The same way you're working with your AD SME, you should be able to work with them. Those could be over the network or the same server, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do next. And this is going to connect to the SQL Server, and you're going to have the opportunity to either deploy the reports or not. So depending on how savvy you are with SQL Server, you may or may not know these URLs. Just to give you a tip, you can always use the reporting services applet, the configuration manager, and a hinter where the web service URL and the report service URL. So I'm happy to be running everything on the single server here, but I'm going to cheat real quick and notice that the web service URL is my server report server. So I can either type it or paste it. So http:// member and then report server, right? And then my report manager URL is going to be reports manager. So I'm going to copy a little bit of this. Notice the difference with the type. Here you could make a typo real easy. So notice that I skipped on that. Now I'm selecting the domains that are going to be monitored. Notice here that it's going to default to the default domain. When we did the prerequisites, this is small lab, only one domain. So we're only delegated the replication rights to one domain. If you want to monitor multiple domains, they have to have the proper trust relationship, and you have to delegate rights to that account as well. So keep that in mind. The next is my synchronization time. So in my case, I picked the defaults. This is going to be tied to how frequently you need to generate those attestation reports. So if you do it daily, you might as well just run it daily. If you do it every quarter, you want to do that, monthly or, every 3 months or not. If you do it yearly, once a year. So the next one is to select a service account, right? In this case, I already have a service account. You guys saw it when I created it in the prerequisites. It's the Centrify reports account. So I'm going to do a check names, pick that account, and put in the password. One clever thing that happens here is that the wizard is going to do the verification for you. When I press next here, the thing that happens is checking in Active Directory to see if the user has the permissions to replicate. And notice that everything was successful. It's going to do it for every domain. So now when I press next, it's going to go and instead of the other process was actually installing SQL Server Express from scratch. In this case, all it needs to do is create the database, deploy the views, deploy the reports, and everything should be ready to go. So the wait is actually a little less here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to consolidate the verification steps with this setup, and I'll let you guys know what is not available on the SQL Server Express instance, and we'll pick it up from there.